Download the AllStar app. Make your picks for UFC fights, challenge your friends, level up and win prizes. Link in description. Get it now. Westin, June 15th. You got another fight coming up, and I'm pretty sure this one it's the one, man. Explain this opportunity. Explain what it means to you, this fight.
Yeah, I think this is last two fights I had like the same type of guy. I don't really like fighting that type of a fighter, the stand and brawl pressure type of guys. Jeka is a little bit more like he throws heavy, he throws with ill intentions, but he's not like high output you know. Um so I think I'll be able to kind of get my game plan going a little bit more mentally. I'm just in a way better place mentally, and just ready to kind of show out, and basically prove to all the neighborhood kids that tell my kids that I suck because I can't win any UFC fights. Prove to them I don't suck. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. It'll be a fun one.
Does it go that deep? Like the kids that you
Oh,
teach?
it goes hard, man. I had some neighborhood kids tell my kids that I would be cool if I could win fights, but since I don't win any fights, I'm not cool. And my 4 year old, it made her real mad. She punched the kid in the face, and it caused the whole neighborhood fight. Yeah, it was funny. Like it cracked me up. I'm just like, yeah, well, you got me there.
Well, that sounds like how a real neighborhood should be, right? Like you should be able to like
Yeah.
crack each other in the face and then come back the next day and reconcile and move on with life.
Yeah, yeah. No, all the kids, man, they're all wild. They're all just, we live in a cul-de-sac, so all the kids are just playing all the time. They're all around the same age. Um, his kid was a little bit older, so I'm sure his parents were saying something like, I'm sure he got it from his parents. But everybody in the neighborhood, they're all cool, and they're like, yeah, you represent us well. I'm like, all right, hopefully, you're not just saying that to my face, but then behind my back, y'all are talking trash. But even if they were, like, it, it used to affect me. It doesn't affect me anymore. Like a year into being in the UFC, like I've seen it all, I've heard it all. None of it bothers me anymore. It's like, all right, cool, whatever.
Is that what you were
Getting
alluding?
the death, the skull and crossbones signs from all these Indonesian fans,
Oh yeah,
followed by the Indonesian flag. Like it's cool.
yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah, at least that's just online stuff, you know what I mean? That it doesn't really matter, like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean, what that is, what
yeah,
that's
yeah.
happening. But you mentioned something about you're in a better place mentally. Is that what you're talking about? You just said about like viewing the UFC and being in the UFC and all of the stuff that comes with it.
Yeah, like this fight camp has just been like super good. We've gotten all the right training partners. A lot of times it seems like Steven and I, Wonderboy and I, will be in camp together, and so the attention gets split between me and him, and um, like this time is like a full camp without Steven being in camp. And so I've gotten like all the attention and all the focus and uh, I've gotten to be a little bit more selfish this fight camp, so it's been good. And I've really been like more gritty, not complaining about injuries or I don't want to train. Like everything's been like super positive. It's like, yeah, man, I got to go train. We're gonna go have fun today. Work, life balance as well. Like outside of training, my work's been going awesome. Family life's been going awesome. So everything's just kind of like been super good. Whereas like normally in my life, I'll have something that like I have to put away and be like, oh, and then it's always in the back of my mind. I haven't had that this fight camp, so it's been really positive. Like family life's great, job's great, fighting's great. So it's all just kind of culminated into just a ton of positivity.
During you've been through a bunch of fight camps. That's just your fight camps. You've been through other people's fight camps as well,
Yeah.
and and you get to observe them, and you get to kind of like reflect on yourself. Has there always been a point in a fight camp where you're just like, annoyed by everything, and you're just like, man, I'm over it by this point. Like you're just so like, I guess, run down to a
Dude,
certain point.
yeah, yeah. So always, I'll tell you, it's always like the weekend where you're 2 weeks out. For me, it's always that weekend, because then I really start I really start cutting my calories, all the hard training, all the hard sparring's done. So you're like starting to recover a little bit, but you're calorie deficient as well, because you just start like your hard dieting. So for me, it was like last Friday, Saturday. I was like, oh, I'm just done. Like I'm ready, to fight. And then the weight starts coming off, and you're like, oh man, it's gonna be good. Like the weight cut's going well so far, and so then that you can flip that trigger, and you're back in it. So yeah, for me that point was Friday, Saturday. I was like, oh, I'm just done, and then by Monday I was like, yep, I'm back in it. I'm good. I'm ready to go. So I took Sunday off, and I rested, relaxed, hung out with the family, and then by Monday I was ready to go.
But when you see other guys going through that, you're just like, like that this person is going through it, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my wife would be like, "Are you just hangry, or something else?" And I'll be like, "No, I'm hangry," like I'll just be like, "Ah, yeah, I'm just sore," or like I get real short, like I get real like my temper, because I'm usually like somebody that's like very even keel, and like even in the cage, like I'm like always very even keel, and I'll get real snappy, and I become a smart ass. Like I just say, like, if you say stupid things to me, I'm gonna treat you like you're dumb, and people don't like that. So I gotta like watch myself when I'm that way. So I teach like 14 and 15-year-olds, and so Sunday I was teaching, Sunday school, and like I was hyped up. I was like, yeah, man, like it was the most energetic I had been. So like I know I'm like in a good space, because normally I'd be like just check in and be like, okay, yeah, just turn to this section of the Bible and just read, and like I'm like really short with them as well. But like I was like amped up, so I'm in a good spot.
you know, Religion. How much of that affects your outlook on your career? How much does that affect your outlook on just being a martial artist and things like that?
Yeah, I used to I used to be kind of under that assumption. I would get so annoyed when fighters would be like, "Oh, it's not in God's plan for me to win that fight." I'm like, "This is like the biggest crock of crap." Like, or God didn't want me to win. Like, I hate that excuse. Like, it drives me crazy. The other thing is like, when people are like, who was it? Mark Hunt, when it's always like Jesus loves knockouts. Like, I don't know. For me, like I try to keep it a little bit more separate. Like people know, like I'm Mormon and everything like that. But yeah, like I don't, I'm not gonna go out there and preach. I'm not gonna bring a Bible or Book of Mormon or anything like that. Like it's who I am, but like I keep it more like close to my heart than like go out there and try to force it on everyone else. But I think like in terms of like my training habits, my eating habits, and things like that, like religion definitely plays like a huge part in it. Like I've never drinking alcohol, never drank coffee, tea, um, smoke, none of that. Like I've never done any of that stuff, just because of religion, and religion purposes. And it's played like super well into, my fight camps, and my weight cuts, and things like that. Um, so like in that regards, like religion's played like a big part. Um, all of those things, like it kind of shapes who I am. I think a lot of my like work ethic came from having to serve a 2-year mission, where you're not listening to music, not watching TV, you're not, hanging out with girls. Like you have another dude living with you, and it has to be with you 24/7. You know, like that was like hard, mentally taxing. So like I know I'm like, okay, I went through that. Like I can go through whatever.
Yeah, I grew up with a strong Mormon family in my neighborhood. I used to go to their house all the time. I used to even go to church with them, and I played in the basketball leagues
Yeah.
growing up, the Mormon basketball
Yeah.
leagues, dude.
You know. It's so funny because I was talking to Forrest Griffin a couple years back, and he was telling me how he quit high school basketball to play in the Mormon basketball league. And so he's like, "Yeah, I had to go to church 2 weeks a month." And he's like, "But I love playing Mormon ball because y'all would get in fist fights and you didn't care." And I was like, "Yep, that's pretty much how it is. Like that's why I got into fighting."
Yeah,
I was like, all these sports like at church, when
yeah,
we're just throwing hands and wrestling and everything else. But yeah, it's funny.
yeah,
Like a lot of I didn't realize like how many people like played like church league,
yeah.
basketball.
Yo, it did get kind of wild out there a few times, man. I can't talk about it out here, but it did get wild a few times. You probably know. You probably
Yeah,
been in some
and
situations.
nobody's like swearing. They're all saying like close to swear words, like "you fricker," and it's so lame. It's so lame, but yeah, that's
But
where
ballers
I
though, there were
get in.
some ballers
I
in the league though. There's some guys that could hoop like real good. I was just shocked like they weren't in college ball or something. They were so good.
Yeah, yeah, dude, and they play rough, man, like
Mm.
elbows and definitely some charges and things like that,
Yeah,
and they're not calling it.
yeah,
It's rough. Like this kind of I was from like 12, 13, 14. Like I was getting in fist fights.
yeah,
Geez, like at least once a week.
yeah, man. They should definitely do a documentary on Mormon basketball leagues around the country. I think it would be very, very interesting if they did that.
It's funny. I think they've kind of put a chill on it. Like it's not they don't do it as much. Like
Okay.
they're not as big. It's not as big of a thing anymore because I think there was too many fights and people like it got rowdy. Like and it didn't matter where in the world you were.
Yeah.
Like even in Brazil, instead of basketball, it was futsal. It was the
Yeah.
indoor soccer.
Yeah.
Man, we'd be thrown down in
Mm.
that as well. We'd be like, "Oh, what you wanna fight?" Like we just throw down.
I love it. Love it. Now, back to your fight, man. You're taking on this Indonesian. You spoke about him earlier. You know, he's had two fights in the UFC. The first, it's like a tale of two totally different stories, right? When you look at his fights, the one that he fought against the Indian Anshu Jubli for the contract, and then the
Yeah,
one that he fought Lucas Alexander, right? It's when
yeah.
you watch those fights, right? It's completely different, right? How they played out.
Yeah, honestly, like Alexander was picking him apart, and then just made a stupid mistake, turned his back, to stand up out of like I think he got his kick caught, and then Jeka stood back, and he got up and turned his back as he was getting up and got clipped behind the ear. So like I don't know, it was like the kid's got power for sure, and so you've got to kind of be on that like, oh, okay, you got to be aware. But I think Jubilee, like he exposed a huge weakness, and I don't really think you can like close that gap of grappling that fast.
Yeah, it seems like
I
Alexander, like you said, he did go in there. He looked really good on the feet. He just got caught. Yeah, he turned around and he didn't even see the punch coming, dude. That thing just came in.
know.
And
No,
Jeka
just
has
he's
crazy power.
and
Yeah, and he has crazy
yeah,
power. But if he doesn't land that
all
power, it
those
doesn't.
road to
Yeah,
UFCs, like
yeah.
yeah, all the road to UFCs, like against the Korean kid.
Oh man.
I forget which one, but yeah, he just hit him with a left hand.
Yeah.
But same thing, like that kid was kind of winning the striking exchanges, and then just stood real lazy in the pocket for a second and lights out.
Yeah. That it's kind of clear sometimes. You know what I mean? Like when you look at Jeka, he's still rough around the edges. He's still somewhat of a developing fighter, even though he has more than 15
Mhm.
fights. But you could see that,
Yeah,
right? When you watch his fights, that he's still kind of sharpening the weapons. Like he hasn't found his real style yet.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think he's got like it's funny because his striking like he's got that Muay Thai background, but then he doesn't stand like a Muay Thai guy. He stands more bladed. But he still like goes in the well of the Muay Thai style, and then like everything's like being in a blender. It's just everything's just really
Looping.
a lot of looping and large energy. And if he misses, he's coming right back on the other side with another shot. So um, yeah, we've just been training to
Yeah.
be ready to go into a blender, just
Yeah.
block and
Yeah.
get. So. It'll be good. I think it'll be a good and exciting fight, and it'll either be really boring because I'll take him down and just control him and look for the finish on the ground, or he'll stop a couple of takedowns and I'm going to press forward. He's going to press forward, and we'll just see who can win the hand battle.
What do you?
But yeah,
What do
I
you?
mean, I don't have the power that he's got in my shots. So, but I think I've got the precision, the accuracy, the striking, the reach. So it'll be a fun one.
Yeah, man. People say it back against the wall. You probably understand the situation you're in. It's like you're fighting for a contract, right? Like that's what it is.
Yeah, 100%. Backs against the wall. I'm really wanting to fight in Salt Lake later this year.
That's right.
So I've got to win this one in order to fight in Salt Lake. Um, and so yeah, backs against the wall on this one, and I've just got to leave it all out there, regardless of the result. I think if I leave it all out there, they'll at least put me on Salt Lake. I just can't show up like I did on that last one.
Well, you go out there, you get the win, you get the finish, get on the mic, and you start a petition for Salt Lake. I'm pretty sure people are gonna sign it to get you on there, man.
Yeah.
Especially with your background.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. That's the plan. I'm gonna get on the mic. I'm gonna call out Tops and ask them to make a card for me, and then call for Salt Lake for UFC 307.
There you go, man. June 15th, man, in Las Vegas, UFC Fight Night. Westin, thank you so much for taking the time. And yeah, it's always good catching up with you. And yeah, man, back against the wall, do your thing. And let's see Salt Lake City.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you, John. How's Thailand? How's Phuket?
It's good, man. It's good. The weather is getting better. Man, it was hot for like a couple months. Just like, what is wrong with global warming? Now I'm starting to believe in it a little bit. I don't know. I'm not a scientist.